Jessy wanted a horse, nothing more and nothing less. Unfortunately, that was too much to ask for. She thought she found her dream horse, but when it was finally taken to a vet after a few days of horror, the vet looked at Jessy and said, "Dear lady, do you have any idea what this is?" It didn't take the vet long to realize that Jessy had bought a very strange horse. After hours and hours, the vet came to his conclusion. He wasn't sure how to tell this to poor Jessy, who was hoping to keep her horse. But he was entirely sure of his diagnosis and had no other choice than to reveal his findings, no matter if they would break her heart or not. Once the vet shared the news, Jessy knew there absolutely was no way to keep her horse. She had to give up her dream and thanked the vet for at least being honest and relieving her from all of this insecurity. But what was so special about this horse? Was it, in fact, a horse? And why did it turn the vet into a nervous wreck? Welcome to Wonderbot Animals. It was an auction just to Jessy's liking. Right by the country, countless animals were being sold, and all of them really needed a home as they were found or saved from abusive owners. And there it was, a unique horse looking strangely beautiful. Jessy didn't need to think twice, but she should have. The salesman was a bit vague toward Jessy. He couldn't really tell her more about the horse other than it was called Africa, and it was about 4 years old. But Jessy didn't mind. The horse seemed special and reacted well to her caresses. She was coming home with her. Jessy didn't have a piece of land herself, but had an idea of where to keep the horse. Only a few blocks away, there was a riding school. There was plenty of room for other horses, and due to the short distance, Jessy could visit her horse daily. It all seemed bright, but things would unravel quite soon. The first sign of something being off occurred on the second day. Jessy was at work and was told to come to the riding stables at once. They wouldn't tell her why. Once Jessy arrived, she understood. This is where Jessy should have known something was wrong, but the poor woman was being naive. Her horse destroyed one of the gates with just 1 or 2 kicks. The stables were made to sustain such outbursts of the horses, yet it broke. The stable owner confronted Jessy. "This is very unusual. Where did you get this horse? And did you ride her already?" But Jessy didn't buy the horse to ride it. To calm the stable owner down, Jessy told him that she didn't ride her horse yet. She told him that should explain the behavior. The horse had too much energy to stand around and had to be exercised to accept her isolation in a stable. Then, the stable owner proposed something that would change everything. He said she could use the horse track for free this time. He joked that he didn't need payment since it would save his stables. Jessy was not in the position to deny and agreed. She asked the stable owner to prepare the horse so she could run to her home and get the right clothes. But when she comes back, her horse will be gone. When Jessy returned, she didn't see her horse anymore, only a shocked stable owner. He said he couldn't believe his eyes. "I've never seen a horse so powerful," he said. But Jessy wasn't interested in his words. She wanted to know where her horse was. She demanded he would tell her what had happened and where her horse was. The stable owner told her he had already taken the horse outside to prepare her, but when a loud car passed, the horse freed itself from a pole and ran off. Still, the horse was within the gates of the riding track and shouldn't be able to escape. But the horse easily broke down one of the gates and ran off. There was nothing normal about this horse. Jessy was lost for words. What did she get herself into? And most importantly, where did her horse go? She had to find it. She immediately called the rescue service and submitted her as missing. Jessy left the riding stables at once without further questioning the owner. That turned out to be a mistake. The rescue service asked Jessy about her location, and as soon as she told them everything she knew, they asked her to come over to the station. Jessy was expecting to share some more information about her horse, or perhaps to identify herself, but the rescue service had other plans. Once she arrived, they calmly asked her to sit down. They showed her a picture of her horse, and Jessy immediately jumped up. "Does that mean you found her?" But the rescue service told her it was an old photo. Jessy is terribly disappointed. But wait! Where's this picture from if it's not a recently taken picture? She asked herself. But if Jenny asked any questions about the situation, the rescue service would straight up ignore her. They just told her they would do everything they could to rescue her horse because everyone will benefit from it. Suddenly, Jessy knew there was a lot more to this horse than she initially thought. And so Jessy, alongside the rescue service, began the rescue mission. The rescue service started in the areas around the stables, and Jessy walked over to a small forest just a few kilometers from the stables. She agreed with the rescue service to stay in contact. It wouldn't take long before she'd receive a phone call. Although she didn't find the horse yet, Jessy found many tracks that could indicate that her horse was around. She kept looking and was close to losing hope until a stranger approached her and offered his help. She didn't know it then, but this stranger would change everything. The stranger asked Jessy to describe her horse, and Jessy tried her best to be as descriptive as she could. But she wasn't even halfway through explaining when the man suddenly interrupted her. "What if I told you that your horse didn't run away, but was taken?" Jessy is stunned. The stranger described how a man, dressed in horse riding clothes, ran off with her horse. The stranger was very sure of himself and pointed in the direction they came from. It was exactly the direction of the stables. What was the stable owner up to? Did he lie to her? Jessy called the rescue service right away. There was no time to spare. She expected the rescue service to respond very naturally to the news, as their mysterious behavior from before should be because of this theft. But they reacted as surprised as Jessy herself. What was going on here? Even though this was mainly bad news, at least they knew in what direction they had to look and who they were after. The rescue service alarmed the police, and it didn't take them long to track down the stable owner. Jessy went to the place of the arrest to see her horse, but was told the horse was already taken to a vet. After insisting, they finally told Jessy where she could find the vet. She rushed there and was received by the rescue service. They asked her to stay put, as the results of the examination by the vet would tell Jessy everything she needed to know. Finally, everything was about to become clear. But before she could even get close to the vet, she was stopped by the media. How did they know, and what did they know? They started to ask her all sorts of questions and kept calling her horse by the name Africa. How did they know that exact name? At first, Jessy was too overwhelmed to speak. She stared blankly at the microphones and didn't answer the reporters' questions. After all, she didn't even know what was going on herself. But the journalists kept asking question after question, and Jenny almost felt like she couldn't breathe. Then, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Whenever the media said the word horse, they said it like a quote. They even made gestures with their fingers. What did they know that Jessy didn't? Jessy started responding by asking why they mentioned her horse like that. But the journalists didn't answer and used the opportunity to ask her even more questions. Jessy was lost for words. It became clear to her that she wouldn't be able to reach the vet in these circumstances. And even when she tried to back off, the media followed her. She needed help. Badly. Who could help her out? Who could be her hero in these strange hours? When Jessy was finally able to leave behind the media, she ran into one of the team members of the rescue team, Amber. Jessy felt restless and begged for help. Amber didn't hesitate and invited Jessy to hide out in her car. An allegiance was about to be formed. Looking back, this was an allegiance she truly needed. Jessy sat down and finally felt calm again. She also felt very thankful for Amber's care, as they didn't even know each other. They started talking about everything, and she could see how Amber was beginning to trust her as well. Then, Amber revealed something that left Jessy completely shocked. Amber told Jessy that her horse was also stolen by the stable owner. It had been a while, but Amber still remembered it like it was yesterday. Amber and the stable owner went to court, but this ended up in a defeat due to a lack of evidence. Perhaps this time, justice was due if they worked together. But Amber wasn't too optimistic. Even though everyone knew the stable owner was guilty, he somehow managed to get away with it. This had everything to do with his connections, as he was a powerful man. Amber was convinced that the stable owner leaked the news about Jessy's horse to the media so they would slow down the process. She wasn't wrong. Jessy sighed. What was happening to her life? All she wanted was to know about her horse, whether it was safe, and why it was taken to the vet. Amber tried to calm her again, but she couldn't deny that something must be wrong with the dear horse. After all, it wouldn't be at the vet if everything was okay. Amber had some great advice. She told Jessy to actually do an interview with the media, and a big one for that matter. The stable owner would never expect that, and by giving this interview and talking about his theft, he'd get all the attention he was trying to avoid. Jessy agreed. She was willing to take these risks in order to save her horse, but she wanted something from Amber as well. "I'm going to need you to do something, Amber." Jessy told her how she'd like to find out what's going on with her horse in the meantime to ease her mind. They had no idea what they would set off with this allegiance. They shook hands and each went their own way. To be sure, they exchanged numbers to remain in contact. Jessy waited a little while and saw her brave new friend go in the vet's direction. Jessy, herself, headed to the journalists, and when she got there, she took one apart. She managed to take away a journalist from one of the most prominent networks. Jessy was nervous, but managed to say what she wanted. She proposed an interview on live television in exchange for a few minutes to tell her story without interruption. The reaction of the journalist surprised her. The journalist told Jessy that she could do whatever she wanted during the interview as long as she showed up. She even told Jessy she could make up her own questions and share them beforehand. Jessy didn't know what she was hearing. Was this interview such a big thing? Was this such a large story? Even though she was a bit surprised, Jessy realized their plan was working. She enthusiastically texted Amber about her success. But when she got no reply, she asked Amber how things were going on her end. Unfortunately, Amber had less success with their plan, as it would soon turn out. In the following hours, Jessy doesn't get a response whatsoever. So, she sat at home, preparing for the interview, getting anxious for Amber. She tried calling her. No response. Then she looked at her text, whether Amber had opened it already. She saw how Amber hadn't been online for hours. Before Jessy had to leave to do the interview, she still had some time to check on Amber. She went back to where she had met her before, as it seemed like a good starting point. She rushed over there, but when she arrived, she realized she had to be careful. Would Amber be okay? Jessy looked around her. It was a gritty sight. There were police everywhere. Some journalists stayed behind, and most things were shut down by the police. She walked around a bit, calling Amber once more. Then, when she got close to the vet, Jessy saw something that turned her stomach upside down. She saw how Amber was getting arrested. Poor Amber. What did she do wrong? Was this Jessy's fault? Jessy's heart began to race. They aggressively put her into the police car. Jessy couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by this sight. Should she interfere or just stick to the plan? Jessy decided to stick to the plan. She drove off to do her interview and planned to go to the police station after finishing. Perhaps she'd even bring up Amber during her interview. Jessy's welcomed like a celebrity at the TV station. Why? What did they know about her horse that made Jessy a celebrity? One of the journalists took her apart to ask her about the questions she had prepared. She handed them over and asked for a coffee. The journalist soon returned and asked her if she could do anything else for her. Jessy thanked her, grabbed her phone, and saw that she had a text message. It was from Amber, who's pretending that Jessy's her lawyer. Jessy was overjoyed to hear from her, but disturbed at the same time. Apparently, Amber had to lie to even speak to Jessy in the first place. The first few lines of the text read, "Dear lawyer." However, the last few lines read something more personal. "Stick to the plan. I'll tell you more soon." Jessy finished her coffee and got ready to enter the live show. She could hear the audience and the presenter who was introducing her. There were a lot of people, and Jessy was nervous. Yet she told herself it would be okay since she did all this for her dear horse. How would she be doing now, she wondered. Jessy entered the stage and started her interview. She mainly talked about the stable owner and his role in all of this. She mentioned Amber's horse as well. The audience responded, greatly shocked and cheered for Jessy's courage. Then, finally, in return for her bravery, the journalist told her the deal with her horse. During the interview, the stable owner got arrested. Jessy's horse turned out to be a zebra, smuggled in from South Africa. That explained its unique look and incredible strength. The stable owner lost it and tried to steal it back. The zebra was taken to a zoo where Jessy could visit her every week. She got accompanied most of the time by her new friend Amber.